Songea, German East Africa, 27th of February, 1906. It is perhaps one of the darkest days in the history of colonialism, but with certainty it became a day that would forever live in infamy for the people of East Africa. Over 100 people are publicly hanged by German officials under the direction of Governor Adolf von Goetzen for their role as African resistance leaders against German colonialism during the Maji Maji War, which has raged across East Africa since 1905. The purge is calculated to instill fear and terror in the remaining fighters and discourage any opposition to German rule. Of the 67 leaders executed, 66 are men. The one woman was known as Nduna Mkomanile from Kitanda. But who was she? Now, there's a lot we do not know about her. But first, let's set the scene. Since the Berlin Conference of 1884, where European nations carved up the African continent into colonies for themselves, Germany had been pursuing colonial expansion in East Africa. Today, that would be parts of modern-day mainland Tanzania, Rwanda, and Burundi. While slow at the beginning, increasing German presence led to clashes with local groups and serious battles as the German colonial army marauded from the coast to the interior. In general, local leaders were forced to join the German colony or face violent persecution. But by the early 1900s, German control was driving many East African subjects to the brink. They forced locals to grow cash crops like cotton rather than food. The cotton was to be exported, bringing revenues for Germany, but not for the local people. A harsh taxation system was introduced. It created a vicious cycle, which forced farmers to use their time selling their labor for meager cash so that they could pay off these taxes. It also meant they had less time to grow food, which eventually created a food shortage. But in the immediate term, German colonial policies increased pressure and indeed resentment. Resistance to German colonial rule grew, especially in southern and western Tanzania. And in 1905, over 20 groups, including the Ngoni, Makonde, Mwera, Ngindo, Bena, and many others, united against the Germans. They were armed with Maji, a magical potion that was rumored to turn the bullets of the colonizers' well-armed military units into water. Introduced by the self-styled prophet Kinjeketile Ngwale, the potion was a mixture of castor oil, water, and millet seeds, and gave Africans the courage to take on the cotton plantations and German-controlled trading posts. And this is how Nduna Mkomanile enters the fray.
She was an instrumental figure in the Maji Maji War, as she was the person who could connect the battlefield, the coastal Tanganyika battlefield, and the southern Tanganyika battlefield, where the Maji Maji was being held.
This is Vincenzia Schul, a Tanzanian historian and theatre producer. She in fact created a play about Mkomanile's life.
Nduna Mkomanile's story is fundamental to the current Tanzania because many of the literatures have ignored her and have continued to ignore many women who has been part and parcel of freedom fighting. By bringing Mkomanile today, a process which we have done for the past almost 20 years now, is to allow the Tanzanians to be proud of the women who were in the forefront for liberation and independence.
Along with being a vital link and distributor of the anti-colonial resistance, Nduna Mkomanile unified the Ngoni and the leaders of the Ubena and Upanga ethnic groups. Under her watch, Kitanda became a gateway for the Maji, or war medicine, from Kinjeketile Ngwale to pass through to various other groups joining the revolt. Nduna Mkomanile became a wanted person by the Germans because of this, and they targeted her. And while it's not known if she was directly involved in combat, she almost certainly played a hand in the spreading of the Maji Maji revolt as a cultural broker, messenger, and ruler. Between 1905 and 1907, it's estimated that 100 to as many as 300,000 Africans died in what is now known as Tanzania. While military conquest and purges of the local political elite killed many, it was the German scorched earth methods that secured complete control, but also created mass starvation. Villages and crops were burnt, with areas then depopulated as survivors sought work or food. While detailed records of the atrocities are hard to come by, German officers employed scorched earth tactics, knowing that a clear military victory alone would likely not subdue the resistance completely. Indeed, the fallout of the Maji Maji War destroyed livelihoods for generations beyond the war. Women bore the brunt of the conflict, like men. But unlike men, their contribution to anti-colonial resistance has often gone unheard, according to Schul.
I would say she is less celebrated as compared to the male counterparts like Songea and Chabruma and Chipeta, Pambalioto, and the rest who were hanged together. At that particular time, she was so powerful kind of a woman. And to my thinking is that there might be two or three reasons why her name disappeared. One, perhaps many people who were documenting the story did not believe she could be a woman because she was very fierce and a fighter. But the other part might be the general perception of trying to undermine women's contribution in the independence struggles and freedom fighting. It has been a tendency in Tanganyika and Tanzania to ignore women's stories and raise up male stories. And that is typically observed when we look how we celebrate Julius Nyerere as compared to Bibi Titi Muhammad, for example, whom they fought together equally.
Today, Nduna Mkomanile is recognized as a Tanzanian freedom fighter and an icon of female resistance. She is remembered in Songea every 27th of February for her role in uniting Tanzanians to fight colonial oppression. And people like Vicencia Schul have traveled across Africa with plays honoring her legacy.
It's also to give pride to the young women and girls in particular to understand that in the process of having the current nation called Tanzania, there were women who sacrificed, but their stories is less documented. So it is to bring into the attention of the citizen of the country that it is not that women are fighting for equity and equality, is the fact that they have been part and parcel of the process.
This special feature was brought to you by DW with support from the German Federal Foreign Office. I'm Kai Nebe.